and welcome, Martina here with another video for Crafty Meraki. In today's video, I will share some tips and tricks how I add more texture or interest or that special something to my card making. I've been sharing a card on Instagram lately where Bindu, the owner of Crafty Meraki, this is the card by the way, instantly commented that she's hoping that I have a reels for this card, which I of course didn't have. So I thought I can create a YouTube video where I will be able to share some more insight and some more detail to the techniques. Let's get started. I am working on a regular piece of cardstock. I've cut it to 4 to 5.25 inches, and I am coloring it with some dye inks. I have two purple tones, a lighter shade and a darker shade. You could use whatever ink you have handy. I decided to work with dye inks because I was aiming for a more crisp and clear coloring on my card. You could replace it with, for example, distress inks or any other dye ink you have on hand. Or if you like that shady, chalky, more toned down or muted effect, you could also go and try it with distress oxides. I just decided to go with dye inks because I wanted to have a very clear and clean coloring. You might notice that I am a very bad ink blender and I absolutely don't mind because this technique is so forgiving. It's just about getting some color onto the background and aiming for a as well smooth or even apply of color as possible, but it's no rocket science and no science at all. It doesn't have to be very nice and neat. You see, I just left it as it was. Set it aside to dry and went to another piece of cardstock. This time I'm using a stripe of the same cardstock. And as you can see, my ink blending with the green is even worse. I am getting some very unnice splotches of my brush because I'm working too fast and I'm trying to get the color on too fast, and I'm not very sure if this is the best cardstock for ink blending. And again, it doesn't matter for this technique because you won't notice it at all at the end. So it's again all about getting some ink onto the paper and leaving it as it is. I'm just trying to get a slightly more deep or more saturation of the color to the paper. That's why I'm going back and forth and over. It's not about getting my splotches away, it's just about getting more color onto my paper. As soon as I have a nice coverage of the color on my paper, I'm grabbing a stamp. I am working with the All My Love stamp, which is a Crafty Meraki stamp, and I'm using a teal colored dye ink with the stamp to stamp directly on the green, which adds a very nice detail or pattern to the colored paper, and you can see it just melts amazingly together. And I'm very happy that I decided to go with the turquoise because I feel it creates a very soft or smooth blend between the two colors, and I absolutely love it, and I'm very, very happy with what I see at the moment. As soon as I have this, you also can see that it doesn't matter about the coloring again. I will now die cut the background with the Pagoni Mania background die, and the green stripe I will die cut with the Canopy leaf die, which is my favorite die from Crafty Meraki. And I have cut the Canopy leaf 3 times from my green background, and I'm just gluing the leaves onto my even splotchier background, as you can see, with Burley Arts glue. I'm using a paperweight to make sure that the glue stays put, and I have a very nice bond of the glue and nothing will move when the glue is dried on my background. You see now that my 3 leaves don't cover the whole background, so I'm just going in, grab a scissors and snip off some of the leaves and just glue them like in the gaps of the pattern so I can just feel them, and you won't notice that it was just 3 die cuts and I paper pieced them together. In the time the leaves are drying on the paper, I'm going to add some bling to my word die I will be gluing onto my card, and I'm getting everything ready because this is a technique for lazy crafters as I am, and you want to have everything ready so you get the best results. I am saturating my die cut with my dye ink, and in the time where the dye ink is still wet, I'm going in and adding some embossing powder. This time I'm using the Wow Embossing Disco Ball, which is a crazy, amazing, beautifully shimmering powder. And as the ink is still wet, the powder is sticking to the die cut, and I can use my dye ink instead of an embossing ink. I can just skip that step. And as soon as I have tapped off all of the embossing powder, I can go in with my heat tool and melt my embossing powder. You can use a heat tool, an embossing fan, it really doesn't matter. You just have to melt the whole powder on your die cut and you're fine. Since the die cut was slightly warped, I've taken a paperweight and just put it onto the die cut for 1 minute or so when it was still warm, so I had a slightly flatter die cut to glue to my card. The leaves are now well glued to my background, and I can go in and just snip off all of these leaves which don't fit to my card background. And to make it easy and nicely aligned, I just turn my card to the back, and then I'm able to see where the edges are where I can cut. I'm now folding my card base, which is at the end a 4¼ to 5½ inches, and I'm gluing my card base onto my card. I usually glue my card bases to my cards with these glue tapes, because I don't like the humidity of a liquid glue. I always feel that this adds to the warping of my cards, and that's why I just prefer the adhesive tape version. I know it's nice to have the glue to have some wiggling room, like you can adjust the alignment on the card, but I really like how straight and unwarped my cards are when I use the glue tape. I'm now going in and adding some foam tape to my hearts die. I'm using just some random leftover pieces of foam adhesive because it's very difficult to get these here in Switzerland, so I'm just using whatever I have handy and just customize that stuff to the size I need it. But I need dimension on my cards, so I'm more than ready to go that extra mile and cut these small pieces from other pieces. I'm now gluing the hooks onto my base, and you already see I have some imprinted patterns on my background, stamped florals on my leaves. I have the sparkle on the colored hooks. And I'm now just gluing in the die cut beak onto the hooks, which adds another nice contrast and takes in, like the white frame of the card is now already again repeated in the middle of the card, which I think is a nice touch. And I already like the card a lot as it is, but I decided to go in and add some more shimmer with sequins. I'm using again my just throw them on and glue some of them on sequins gluing and throwing method. I think that's the best technique to get some nice random results. And these are the finishing steps of my card. I really hope you like the card. I hope you like the process. I hope you are inspired to get creative. And I hope we see each other soon with another video. Have a wonderful day. Bye.